Before you spend $2,500 on a new OLED, you should probably see this. LG's new G6 Evo is pushing OLED brightness to a level we honestly didn't expect this year. It looks like a massive upgrade. But here's the strange part. While the screen is incredible, there are a few key things missing that could actually change your mind completely. So the real question is simple. Is this the next big step for OLED TVs, or just an expensive upgrade that looks better than it actually is? Let's break it down. Starting with the most obvious part, the size. This is a 65-inch panel, but on a wall, it barely even looks like a normal TV. It's so thin that it almost disappears once it's mounted, especially since there are no borders around the glass. The biggest upgrade is LG's new primary RGB tandem 2.0 tech, powered by the Alpha 11 Gen 3. To keep it simple, they basically stack two OLED layers on top of each other. This is a big deal because it solves the biggest weakness of OLED TVs, brightness. Now, what's important to understand here is that LG isn't just using normal OLED material. This is their newer OLED EVO design, which uses improved compounds that allow higher brightness without breaking OLED's perfect black performance. LG claims this makes it nearly 4 times brighter than older model, and in real use, it can hit around 2,500 nits of brightness. That's a noticeable jump over last year's G5 as well. What this means for you is that bright highlights in a movie actually pop and feel realistic. But since it's an OLED with 12-bit processing, those bright parts stay controlled without ruining the dark parts around them. You don't get that annoying white halo or blooming effect you see on cheaper screens. Colors also look very natural here, especially in filmmaker mode. Skin tones don't look fake or overly boosted like those showroom TVs. LG has tuned this panel to look more accurate instead of overly saturated. And one thing users often ask is about gradients and banding. And yes, this panel handles low-quality content better than previous generations. You get smoother transitions in skies and shadows without those ugly color steps. Even in really dark scenes, you can still see small details instead of everything turning into a muddy black mess. If you have a wide seating arrangement, the viewing angles are excellent. You can sit almost anywhere in the room and the colors won't wash out or shift. Plus, the panel looks very clean during large bright scenes. You don't get those weird patchy areas that some TVs show during football matches or slow camera pans. Even the glass itself got an upgrade. If your living room has a lot of windows, you know how frustrating it is to see your own reflection during a movie. LG added a new anti-reflection coating that cuts down glare by a huge margin, making it much easier to watch in bright rooms. This is actually one of the key differences between the G6 and older OLEDs. It's not just brighter, it's also more usable in daylight. Honestly, the screen itself is ridiculously impressive, but things start to feel a bit strange once you look at the hardware choices LG made on the back. The G6 comes with a 60-watt Dolby Atmos speaker setup, which is fine for casual watching. Dialogue is sharp, and it gets plenty loud for regular TV shows. But for a flagship TV, the sound still feels a bit behind the picture. There's no real deep bass impact, so for movies or gaming immersion, most people will still end up using a soundbar. The G6 runs on the latest WebOS 26, and the first thing you'll notice is how fast it is. LG has also added AI-based features that help suggest content, and voice control feels more responsive than before. All the main apps like Netflix, Disney Plus, and YouTube are here, but one thing users still point out is that the home screen can feel a bit crowded with recommendations and ads. It doesn't slow the TV down, but it does feel a bit busy when you just want to open an app quickly. LG also promises 5 years of software updates, which is actually a big deal for long-term use. If you're a gamer, the G6 is clearly built with you in mind. It's packed with 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, full support for 4K at high refresh rates, and up to 165Hz for PC gaming. Now, what makes this really stand out is not just the refresh rate, but the responsiveness. Input lag is extremely low, around 4.6 milliseconds, which means that the delay between your controller and the screen is almost unnoticeable. It honestly feels more like a giant gaming monitor than a living room TV. You also get full VRR support, including G-Sync and FreeSync, plus HGIG for better HDR accuracy in games, so motion stays smooth without screen tearing. But again, there's a small weird trade-off here. Even though the gaming performance is top tier, LG still sticks with slower USB ports and downgraded Wi-Fi compared to older models, which feels out of place on a flagship. The G6 continues LG's iconic one-wall design, built to sit completely flush against your wall. It genuinely looks like part of the room rather than a TV. Just keep in mind, depending on the package, the stand might be sold separately. All OLEDs, burn-in always comes up. LG has improved this a lot with OLED care features, like pixel refresh and automatic protection tools. On top of that, they're offering long long-term panel warranty support in some regions, which reduces a lot of the risk compared to older OLED generations. At around $2,500 for the 55-inch, the G6 is clearly a premium product. If you don't need the extreme brightness or wall mount design, the C series is still a strong value option. But if you want the best brightness, best reflections handling, and top-tier gaming in one package, the G6 is one of the strongest OLEDs right now. Now, I know a lot of you still have very specific questions about this TV, especially how this new tech actually works and whether it's really worth the upgrade. So let's start with the first one people always ask. The first question is about LG EVO versus normal OLED. You'll hear the term EVO a lot here. In simple terms, it's LG's upgraded OLED design. Regular OLED panels use older organic materials. EVO uses improved compounds that can handle more heat. And that matters because more heat resistance basically allows the panel to get brighter without damaging the OLED structure. So instead of changing what OLED is, it just makes it brighter and more efficient. Now, the next thing people ask a lot is the G6 actually better than last year's G5? And the answer is yes, but it's not a massive jump. What LG mainly improved here is three things. It's brighter in everyday use, reflections are handled better in bright rooms, and low-quality content looks cleaner with fewer visual artifacts. So think of it more like a refinement upgrade, not a completely new generation. Another big question is OLED versus mini LED. Which one is better for your eyes? And this one actually surprises a lot of people. OLED tends to emit less blue light compared to mini LED, which means it can feel a bit easier on your eyes, especially if you watch content late at night. So for long movie sessions or gaming at night, OLED usually feels more comfortable. Now, coming to something people worry about a lot. Is the G6 basically a mirror now? Not really. And this is actually one of the strongest upgrades. LG has added a new anti-glare coating that reduces reflections by around 54%. So even if your room has windows or lights on, you're not constantly distracted by your own reflection. Now, let's talk about the real downsides. What are the cons of OLED in 2026? Let's be honest here. OLED still has a shorter lifespan compared to LCD TVs, and it can be sensitive to things like long static images over time. And of course, it's still a premium product. You're paying for top-tier picture quality, not budget value. And finally, the question everyone asks, G6 versus C6, is the upgrade actually worth it? The G6 is clearly better, brighter, more accurate, and handles HDR a bit more cleanly out of the box. But the C6 still gives you a very similar core experience for less money. So it really depends on how much you care about that extra brightness and premium design. If this video helped you out, a like would really help the channel, and share it with someone who's thinking about buying a new TV right now. Subscribe to Z2 Tech because the next comparison is going to be the one that actually decides which OLED is worth your money. So tell me, would you actually spend on the G6, or does it feel like overkill? I'll be reading your comments.